Hello and welcome. This webinar will cover balanced eating and has been produced by Somerset NHS Foundation Trust dietitians and is a collaborative project between the community and specialist weight management teams. This may feel like a lot of information, so we would recommend using the pause button when needed to take breaks or to write any notes, and you can come back and review the webinar at any time. My name is Charlotte Merrill and I'm a community dietitian working at Somerset NHS Foundation Trust.
And my name's Alice Murray-Gawley and I'm a weight management dietitian based at Musgrove.
Balanced eating consists of aiming to have regular, varied meals containing food from each food group. Regular meal patterns can reattune those hunger and fullness cues that can be muted by many years of dieting or disordered eating, such as avoiding or skipping meals. This topic is discussed in more detail in one of the other webinars in the series on breaking the dieting cycle and regulating eating patterns. Balanced eating can support with stabilising all those years of yo-yo dieting and also help with managing cravings, which happen as a consequence of dieting. Although weight loss may be your goal, your body's normal and preferred weight may not be the thin ideal that society suggests. Coming to terms with what is normal for you is an important part of body acceptance, self-care and respecting your body. Part of respecting your body is giving the body a balance of foods from each food group. This will give you sufficient energy to live your life. We will discuss what each food group does in more detail, but in essence, balanced eating gives your body what it needs to thrive. We'll have a look at balance, variety and moderation and how this might look over the coming slides. We'd also recommend looking through the resources on the website to help with applying this information to your day-to-day life. I'd also recommend that you take some breaks through the content. 25 minutes can feel a long time for your brain to be taking in information. So think about pausing and restarting the video whenever you like, and we'll also try to prompt you to take a break halfway through.
So let's start by looking at the Eatwell guide. This was produced by Public Health England and shows us a rough guide of the amounts of different food groups that should be eaten. It doesn't give strict portion sizes, but instead encourages variety, balance and flexibility. You don't have to eat perfectly every day. It's more important to have consistency over time. You will not get a nutrient deficiency or gain a huge amount of weight from one snack, one meal, or one day of eating more fun foods. We will now show the different sections in more detail.
Thanks, Alice. So the next food group we're going to discuss is starchy carbohydrates. It's important to get sufficient energy throughout the day, and this will help to regulate your metabolism. As discussed earlier, restriction or low-calorie diets can slow your metabolism down, which means you maintain your weight on a much lower energy intake. It's important to eat when you're hungry, so hunger is your body's way of telling you it needs more energy, and as discussed, these signals can be muted if you choose to ignore them. We would recommend taking a look at one of the other webinars in this series on getting to know your triggers to eating to help you learn the difference between physical hunger and other types of hunger. In order to provide a steady release of energy throughout the day, it's important to include starchy carbohydrates with every meal. Whole grain carbohydrate will keep your bowels regular, support healthy cholesterol levels, support a healthy gut microbiome, that's your gut bacteria, which in turn will help to support your immune system, your mood and your health in general. Whole grain carbohydrates are high in fibre, so that's anything brown, wholemeal, bread with seeds, high fibre cereals and oats, and leaving skins on potatoes, which obviously saves time having to peel them. If you have an active lifestyle or you know you're going to be exercising later, you will need more carbohydrate to fuel this activity or ensure your muscles are able to work effectively. We normally recommend using your fist as a guide when thinking about portion sizes. So this would equate to 2 slices of bread, a fist-sized portion of cooked pasta, rice or potatoes.
So we'll move on to talk about fruits and vegetables. These are often confused with carbohydrates, which Charlotte has just discussed with you. Fruits and vegetables do contain certain types of carbohydrates. However, they don't contain starchy carbohydrates, which means they have less overall energy. This is why potatoes are placed in the yellow section. Although they are technically a vegetable, they contain starchy carbohydrates and therefore would not fall into this green fruit and vegetable section of the Eatwell guide. Fruits and vegetables are packed full of essential vitamins and minerals. These are called essential because we need them to keep our bodies working effectively. For example, vitamin C helps with supporting a healthy immune system and also with the absorption of iron. Vitamin B helps us get the energy from our food that we need, and minerals such as potassium help to regulate our blood pressure. Fruit and vegetables also contain phytochemicals, which are powerful antioxidants that can protect us from disease and ill health. We know that people who eat more fruit and vegetables have a lower risk of heart disease and cancer. In addition to whole grains, fruit and vegetables also contain fibre, which we know from the previous section on carbohydrates helps to keep our digestive system healthy and regulates bowel movements. It's suggested that we eat a rainbow, i.e. lots of different colours of fruits and vegetables, to get a wide variety and balance of different health-promoting nutrients.
Alongside having a rainbow, it's recommended that you meet your 5 a day, which you may have heard recommended in other places. So what does 5 a day look like? Well, one of your 5 a day is roughly 80 grams. So if you don't have access to scales, a portion of fruit is about a handful, a portion of salad is about 2 handfuls, and a portion of vegetables is about 3 tablespoons. Any tinned varieties, try and make sure they're in juice or water. Just be careful of any syrup and be aware of added salt to the vegetables. Pulses count towards your fruit and veg portions, and they're also a really good source of protein and are linked to lower levels of heart disease and cancer. Frozen options are also a good alternative, and they ensure less waste and can be easily added to meals or heated up in the microwave to have alongside a meal. Dried fruit is a smaller portion, about 30 grams, so that's about a small handful. Juices and smoothies still count, but they do have a high sugar content because they contain more than 1 piece of fruit per serving. This can lead to a rapid increase in blood sugar levels because juicing or blending has broken down the fibre for you. Therefore, the fruit sugars are absorbed much more quickly when compared to a whole piece of fruit. This is why it's recommended to only have 150 ml of fruit juice or smoothies per day. As shown on the guide, fruit and vegetables should make up roughly a third of our dietary intake. This will mean on some days you might have more and on other days you may have less. But it's more important to think about the intake of these over time. The link shown is a great resource and gives guidance about what an 80 gram portion looks like for different fruits and vegetables.
We have given you some ideas of how to achieve your 5 a day. So you can try adding a handful of berries or chopped grated fruit to cereal, such as chopped banana, apple, grated apple or pear. You can try snacking on a piece of fruit mid-morning alongside some protein to help keep you feeling full. We'll look at protein a bit more in the next section. Try having a handful of cherry tomatoes with your sandwich at lunch or some other chopped vegetables, whichever you prefer. Include another piece of fruit or some hummus and chopped veg as an afternoon snack. And add plenty of vegetables to any one-pot meals such as bolognese, chili, casserole or stews. Hopefully that will give you an idea of how to meet your 5 a day.
Thanks, Alice. So the next section we're going to discuss is protein. The amount of protein you need depends largely on your body size. Too little protein may lead to reduced muscle mass, and this is a common side effect of trying to lose weight. When you reduce your calorie intake, your body will use the dietary protein or break down muscles for energy. Too much protein, more than you need, will be used for energy, and excess of this will be excreted in your urine. If you're getting sufficient energy from other sources, carbohydrates and fat, for example, then this might lead to any excess energy being stored as fat. Protein helps us to get satisfaction and fullness from meals or snacks. Think about how full you feel if you don't include protein in your meal and how quickly you become hungry afterwards. Protein is important for maintaining our bodies both inside and out, such as repairing cells and the production of essential molecules such as enzymes and hormones, which helps your body working as it should, supporting a healthy immune system, and ensuring our hair, skin and nails are healthy and strong. So when thinking about the protein that you're having, it's aiming for 2 to 3 portions of protein-rich foods each day, aiming for lean and naturally low-fat meat, as this will be lower in energy and be better for your heart health. So when thinking about meat, a portion would be roughly 60 to 90 grams. So that's roughly a deck of cards if you're thinking about beef, pork, lamb, mince, turkey or chicken. For fish, 140 grams is a portion, which roughly amounts to the size of the palm of your hand. So we suggest choosing 2 portions of sustainably sourced fish a week, one of which should be oily fish if possible. So that's salmon, mackerel, trout or sardines as examples there. 2 eggs would be a portion of protein. Pulses, so lentils, beans or chickpeas, which if you were to weigh, this would be roughly 150 grams, so that's half a tin, or 4 tablespoons. Also, soya or tofu is a good source of plant-based protein, and corn as well. And that's roughly 100 grams of that to equate to a portion, so that's 4 tablespoons. Nuts can be included as a snack, and we recommend choosing unsalted and mixed, as different nuts provide different health benefits. 1 tablespoon of peanut butter also counts as a portion of protein, and it's similarly, we would suggest choosing unsalted and unsweetened if possible. So yeah, 30 grams is a portion of nuts, so a small handful. And nuts are high in those heart-healthy fats, and although that's great for your health, it means they're high in energy. So that's why we recommend 30 grams and the portion is small for nuts. So it might be a good time to take a break here, as we are roughly halfway through this webinar. You might also want to look at the resources section of the Patient Webinars website and review or download relevant handouts such as the portion plates, which explain how carbohydrates, vegetables and proteins can be portioned within a meal. So we'll see you for the remainder of this webinar shortly.
Moving on to dairy and alternatives. So we know we need calcium, as this is important for strong bones and teeth, but also because of its involvement in muscle contraction, blood clotting, nerve and heart function, and fluid balance within the cells of our body. So it's pretty important. Calcium is predominantly found within dairy, however there are alternative options to meet your calcium requirements. We'll talk about these in a little while. This food group also provides B12, which is needed for normal functioning of the brain, nervous system, and formation of red blood cells, as well as for optimum energy levels. Iodine is also found within this food group, and this is needed to support a healthy metabolism. This food group can contain quite high fat products, as dairy products can contain large amounts of energy and saturated fat. We cover fat in more detail later in the presentation. However, it's important to be aware that a lot of low-fat products, especially yogurts, can be very high in sugar, so it's important to check labels when shopping. You can aim for about 10 grams per 100 grams of sugar, or less than this, and this will be about right. Anything more than this, and it can imply that they've added quite a lot of sugar to the product. Within this slide, you will see some examples of how you can get your calcium. It's important to remember that if you're getting fortified products, such as the fortified soya yogurt, that you make sure that it says calcium fortified on it. Some of the alternative products will not add the additional vitamins and minerals that your body needs. Some individuals will also need more calcium. Examples of people are those who are most postmenopausal, those with celiac disease, or those diagnosed with weakened bones. Sometimes high-dose steroids can also increase calcium requirements. Oily fish containing bones is another useful source of calcium that is often forgotten. Calcium can also be found in plant-based sources, such as whole grain cereals and spinach. However, in these foods, certain substances can bind to the calcium, preventing it from being absorbed. So we need much larger amounts of these foods to obtain a beneficial amount of calcium. Broccoli and kale are good plant-based sources, as more of the calcium in these foods is able to be absorbed and used. But the amount of calcium in these foods is fairly low, so again you'd need a huge portion to contribute to your daily allowance of calcium. There are other dietary sources of calcium, but these are the ones that are most commonly talked about. For more information on this, you can look up the food fact sheet on the British Dietetic Association's website, which we'll also put in our resources section.
So next we're going to talk about essential fatty acids and oils and spreads. We need essential fats in our diet for normal bodily functioning. So fat in our diet helps us to absorb essential fat-soluble vitamins, A, D, E and K. And dietary fat helps to form the building blocks of our cells, our cell walls and hormones, which are essential for cellular processes throughout the body. Essential fatty acids, such as omega-3 fatty acids and those found in fish oil, must be obtained from our diet and are involved in normal heart and brain functioning at all life stages. Fats are high in energy, so both quantity and type are important. Trans and saturated fats are known to increase inflammation in the body and contribute to harmful cholesterol, which can increase your risk of cardiovascular disease. This is why you hear about the importance of trying to limit the types of foods containing these fats. Unfortunately, these foods tend to be preferred because they taste good and appeal to us as humans. Try and avoid cutting out these foods completely, as this tends to make them more appealing. Instead, think about ensuring you're getting a balance of nutrients in your diet, as this will help to reduce cravings, which in turn will help you feel in control when you choose to have these high energy types of foods. Unsaturated fats found in plants and oily fish are beneficial to health and should provide the majority of the fat that we consume in our diets. We'll have a look at where the different types of fat can be found in our diets in the following slide.
Let's start with unsaturated fats. So unsaturated fats such as monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats are mostly found in plant-based foods such as nuts, seeds, avocados, olives, rapeseed and sunflower oils, and in oily fish such as mackerel, salmon and sardines. Roughly 30% of your daily energy should come from fats and oils, which equates to about 70 grams, and no more than 20 grams of this should come from saturated fat. As discussed in the previous slide, high intakes of saturated fat are linked to an increase in cholesterol and risk of cardiovascular disease. They can also lead to inflammation, which is linked to poor blood glucose control and cancer. The list here just shows you some rich dietary sources of unsaturated fats and roughly how much fat they contain. There are a handful of mixed nuts, a tin of oily fish, half an avocado, a handful of olives, a tablespoon of olive, rapeseed or sunflower oil, and a tablespoon of olive oil based spreads. It's not about strictly sticking to the 70 gram fat limit, but use it as a rough guide and aim to include foods containing unsaturated rather than saturated fats most of the time. For example, you can choose spreads based on vegetable oils and try and choose spreads with a lower saturated fat content. You're looking for the saturated fat per 100 grams, and this will show you the percentage so you can compare like for like. Here we've shown you some foods rich in unsaturated fats. On the next slide, we'll show you those foods which are high in saturated and trans fats.
So just thinking about saturated and trans fats, as discussed, foods high in those types of fats contribute to raised cholesterol levels, which can increase the risk of cardiovascular disease, and they're also linked to other chronic health conditions. Therefore, replacing saturated and trans fats with unsaturated can help to lower your cholesterol levels and improve your overall health. So saturated fat can be found in red and processed meat. That's beef, pork, lamb, sausages, burgers, ham, salami, chorizo, bacon. We recommend choosing lean and low fat if possible, and we discuss this in more detail when looking at the protein section. Also, saturated fat can be found in full fat dairy products, hard cheeses, soft cheeses, yogurts, full fat milk, cream and butter. As mentioned earlier in the dairy and alternatives section, choose low-fat versions where possible. So cooking fats is also a source of saturated fats, lard, ghee, suet, coconut oil. Try and use unsaturated fats in cooking, such as olive, rapeseed and sunflower. And remember, fats are very high in calories, so think back to your portion sizes on the previous slide when cooking. See if you can use a teaspoon of oil for a one-pot meal, or a tablespoon of oil to coat potatoes or vegetables when you're oven baking. Spreads are also a source of saturated fat, so coconut, palm and butter. And as discussed on the previous slide, choose spreads which contain olive, rapeseed or sunflower oils where possible. Trans fats can be found in fried foods such as chips, fried chicken and other deep fried foods bought out of the home. Also in takeaways. So having a takeaway like a pizza or fish and chips 1 to 2 times a month probably won't make much of a difference to your overall diet or health, as long as there's variety and balance most of the time. Biscuits, cakes and pastries are also a source of trans fats, and it's best to avoid shop bought and limit as much as possible. Consider baking your own and using vegetable oils where possible. Hard margarines are another source of trans fats, and they may contain hydrogenated vegetable oils, so it's important to look at the labels. As we've said before, these fats tend to be more appealing and enjoyable than other foods. Instead of feeling like they need to be cut out completely, ensure your diet has all the nutrients it needs at each mealtime. This will help to reduce your cravings and control your hunger, and then you will feel more in control about when to eat these types of foods.
Thank you, Charlotte. And now might be another chance to take a break if you just want to digest all of that information on fats. We're going to move on to thinking more about fun foods and the foods that we eat for health, but also for pleasure. So it is important to have a balanced diet, as we've talked about, and this does include some of these more fun foods. These are the foods that are generally higher in energy, so they're more likely to contribute to weight gain if you have a less active lifestyle. The important thing here, though, is balance. So think about how you would feel if you just ate fun foods such as chocolate and ice cream or cake, or any single type of any food group for that matter, and nothing with any nutritional value. How do you think this might impact on your energy levels, your mood, your bowels? We need our diet to be balanced to keep our bodies in balance. But similarly, how do you feel if you deprive yourself of these fun foods? Do you feel you can't be trusted around these types of foods? Maybe you feel you might not be able to stop once you start eating them. This is very normal and a consequence of restriction or dieting. Think back to the previous webinars on dieting myths and the dieting cycle if you need a refresher. So try and be kind to yourself and don't feel guilty if you have the occasional chocolate bar or packet of crisps. Life and food is about pleasure, so let most of your food choices be for health and some for satisfaction and pleasure. If your diet is varied and balanced, containing food from all food groups most of the time, allowing yourself to have these fun foods in moderation will not impact greatly on your overall health.
Thank you, Alice. So next we're going to think about fluid and why it's important to be well hydrated. It's important to drink plenty of fluid to prevent dehydration and for normal bodily functioning. Water is involved in transporting and absorbing of nutrients, helping us to maintain blood pressure within the normal range, which can prevent dizziness and lightheadedness. Ensuring proper hydration helps to maintain regular bowel habits and a healthy gut, also ensures proper functioning of waste removal through our kidneys. In contrast, insufficient fluid can also make you feel tired and lethargic. Some people experience headaches, and it can even impact on your mood and concentration. It's recommended to have about 1.5 to 2 litres of fluid a day, which equates to about 6 to 8 250ml glasses, or roughly 4 pints. 250ml glass is about half a pint. But what counts towards your fluid requirements? So water, coffee and tea and herbal tea are all fine as long as they're unsweetened. Some people may be recommended to replace caffeinated for decaffeinated drinks if they have a condition which affects their digestive system. Sugar-free squash also counts towards your fluid requirement, as does lower-fat milks. However, it's worth noting that if you consume your fluid allowance in milk, even if it is lower in fat, this will increase the amount of energy you consume throughout the day, so may impact on your weight, especially if you are less active. 150 ml of fresh fruit juice can count as one of your daily portions of fruit or vegetables and also counts towards your fluid requirements. However, as we discussed in the fruit and vegetable section, fresh fruit juice is very high in easily absorbed sugars. That's why it's recommended to aim for 150 ml only per day. Some people mix this with an equal amount of water to make it a long, refreshing drink.
So to summarise, at the beginning and in the previous webinars, we have looked at the importance of regular meal patterns in reattuning those hunger and fullness cues that can be muted by many years of dieting or disordered eating, such as avoiding or skipping meals. Within this webinar, we discussed the importance of respecting your body by giving the body a balance and variety of foods from each food group to help the body and mind to thrive.
And then we looked at each food group individually. We discussed the importance of including starchy carbohydrates for energy, choosing whole grain varieties to provide a steady release of that energy, and fibre for overall health, and to use your fist as a rough guide for carbohydrate portions with meals. We looked at fruits and vegetables to provide vitamins, minerals, and other important nutrients to support our health, what a portion of fruit and vegetables looks like, and how you might achieve the recommended 5 a day. We've covered why we need sufficient protein for normal bodily functions and to help with feelings of fullness, and we discussed choosing lean, low-fat or plant-based varieties where possible to help support our cardiovascular system. We discussed the importance of the dairy and alternatives food group for providing calcium to support bone and muscle health. We looked at how much calcium is recommended each day for the general population and how you might achieve this through diet. We covered the essential fats and their importance in supporting our healthy cardiovascular system. And we looked at how much fat is recommended each day and that we should aim to get most of our fat from unsaturated, heart-healthy sources. We discussed fun foods and that they can often be high in fat and sugar, so may contribute to weight gain if you are less active. But we also discussed that life and food is also about pleasure, and as long as your diet is varied and balanced most of the time, the occasional high-energy food won't impact greatly on your overall health. Finally, we covered which fluids are recommended for essential hydration and why we need to be properly hydrated to support our mental and physical health. We hope you found this webinar useful as an overview of balanced eating. Please return to the previous section of the Patient Webinars website for further webinars on dieting myths, breaking the dieting cycle, and regulating eating patterns, and getting to know your triggers to eating.
It would also be worth taking some time to go through the handout section of the website. This contains links and downloadable resources with further information on the topics covered within this webinar. Thank you so much for listening. We hope it's been useful.